everyone, and welcome to another of our Best of 2022 podcast. And today it's all about the music, as I'm joined once again by Fiona Liddell. Hello, Fiona.
Hi, Alistair. Thank you for having me back.
That's an absolute pleasure. Before we get into our choices, how's your year been with playing music and all that kind of stuff?
It's been good, yeah. We've been doing a lot more live stuff this year, my band Gear for Guys. We've been kind of trying to get on the live circuit as much as we can. So it's been mainly focused on getting that sound just right and getting it to be engaging as well for the audience. So we've been playing just kind of all about Glasgow and Edinburgh, really just support slots left and right. Also working on some new music as well, which should be out maybe early next year, we'll see. But yeah, a lot of focusing on my own music and songwriting and production, that kind of thing this year, which was quite nice after the last 2 years being in lockdown of just, you know, sort of basking in everybody else's music and listening to so much amazing stuff that was happening. It's been quite inspirational for this year going forward.
And as somebody on the audience side of things rather than on stage, it's great to be back with live music, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic to be back with live music. It's incredible. It feels like it never went away. At the same time, it's amazing how much you missed it when it wasn't there.
That's true. I kind of briefly, that situation where I was like, oh, I'm a little bit tentative still. And then recently it's just been like, oh yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, sod it. Let's just go for it. So you go see all the bands you wanted to see during lockdown. No, it's been cool. I've seen some good bands as well. Who have I seen I really liked Kyoshi Station. We supported them at Sneaky Pete's and their set was incredible a few weeks ago. And Peter Cat, do you know Peter?
Oh yes, I know Peter, yeah.
We saw him in Sneaky Pete's as well, again supporting him, but we stayed for his set as well because that's the good thing to do, and his music's amazing. So it was just, very charismatic frontman. It was, really
he does a terrific show, Peter, absolutely.
It was great.
The one I think that really kind of kicked me back in was seeing Angus Monroe at the Flying Duck in Glasgow. I just love his stuff, and in that small room, woof.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, I really missed this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So before we talk about stuff, we should say that there's going to be a Spotify playlist with links to everyone and everything that we're going to talk about. So go over, have a listen to that, check it out, and there'll be links on the website where you can go and buy people's music and find out more. But Fiona, I'm going to let you kick off first with your first choice. What is it?
My first choice is Chattanooga by Rudy Zigadlo, who's a Glasgow-based producer and musician. He's been going for a long time, actually, but I only just heard the new stuff that was released this year, Transport and the Chattanooga EP. And yeah, this one, it was another one we were talking earlier about how it's hard to choose what song from what EP, because there's been so many great EPs and albums this year. But Chattanooga, I think, is the one that if I was going to show someone Rudy's music, fresh, I'd probably pick this one because it seems to just hit all the bases of what I think about when I think about his new music anyway. This Chattanooga is my first pick.
And I love this EP as well. And this was the first time I kind of remember hearing about him a bit, but this was the first time I really engaged with his music. Our Sellotape was close to making my choice. But then I thought some people might not like that sound of the sellotape at the beginning. For some people, a bit like nails down a blackboard. But he seems to be not just one of the most interesting musically in that EP, but also lyrically as well. He's just a really interesting kind of combination of the two.
Yeah.
Just as a slight aside, I'm interested in what you think constitutes, in the days of streaming as we're in, an EP and what's an album, because is it just what people decide, do you think, to call it?
Kind of. I mean, strictly from a marketing perspective, an EP would be a collection of about 3 or 4 songs. And an album is anything above about 7 songs is like this minimum amount you need for an album, apparently. But that's purely from a marketing perspective. I think it is just turning into whatever you want it to be. It can be an EP or it could be an album. It can be a discography collection. It's just whatever you'd like it to be.
No, I'm sure the reason I ask is because I think with the Scottish Album of the Year Awards, it has to be 6 tracks or more.
There you go then, yeah. Right about that mark I would say. But
yeah. It's just something that crossed my mind, but it is a great EP. And And one of the reasons I was thinking about it, because my first choice, which is Mango Lassie, Coconut Oil, is taken from her Cycles EP, which is only 4 tracks long, but it feels to me like it's such a fabulous collection of songs.
Yeah, well, all the songs and the length of them as well, the journey they take you on, it does feel like you say 4 songs, think it'll be absolutely tiny, but then you listen to the whole thing, it does feel like you've gone on this big hour-long or days-long journey with her. So, yeah.
It's probably my record of the year. Individually, I heard them all individually first, and they're great. But then putting them together as the 4 with the 4 seasons and all the themes that run through it and the changing of what she's thinking about. And I saw Mango Lassie, Amy Bowman, as she is, launching at the Glad Cafe, where there's the stuff, footage that she shot. It's not just a audio project, it's a visual one as well. And she's been cycling about, hence the title, filming the countryside and all sorts. It's absolutely beautiful. And it makes so much more sense as a whole. It's something quite magical as a whole, I think.
Okay, yeah. I've never heard of Mango Lassie. This was completely new to me. But the song in particular, it's very simple, but the story that Amy kind of weaves throughout it, it's like you're going on a big tour of all of Scotland's most beautiful places, and also the senses as well, the amount of food and tastes and smells and sounds that she cites in the song. It just feels like you're going on this mad big holiday with her, weirdly, around Scotland, eating lots of amazing food and experiencing all the amazing things of the country. So the cycling thing does make sense now that you said that.
And when you see the film footage as well, it's exactly that. There's wild swimming, there's cycling, there's the dogs running, there's the picking of berries and all of those things.
Yeah, that's a really lovely song. Reminded me of the Staves a little bit with the harmonies as well.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Good shout. So what's your second choice?
My second choice is Rubik's Cube by Dictator, who are a West Lothian-based outfit who've been going for quite a while now. I think they signed to Black Hole Records this year, possibly.
Right.
And this is their first EP released through them. And the reason I picked the whole EP again is really, really good.
Really is.
Especially Pangolin with Bems is a really, really good track on it, the opening one. But before this EP, when I thought of Dictator, I always thought of their big sort of epic rocky numbers that are like 10 minutes long or something like that, something that they and my band Geffergeist have in common. But then they released this one, and it showed that they weren't afraid to change their sound and show a funner side of themselves, and just share some of their wacky ideas with us a bit more, which I really liked. I learned a lot about the inventor of the Rubik's Cube, which I hadn't really thought of before, as obviously as a person who did that thing. But I thought that was educational as well.
Educational as well as entertaining.
Yeah, it's a very earwormy song as well, and just catchy and kind of playful, and I appreciated the change of pace from them.
I agree completely. It's a great 3-minute pop song in that kind of classic sense, and for me, it's a sign of a really confident band. They're clear on what they're doing. They're clear on what their production is. The image even that's on the album, it's a band really kind of enjoying themselves. And that sample's a great example of that, isn't it? It's like sampling the voice and even using the Rubik's Cube as a metaphor as they do throughout the song.
It's pretty unique, it's a pretty unique way of expressing how your mental state is through a Rubik's Cube. And they kind of touch on how solving a Rubik's Cube is this big, impressive feat. Even though it's a simple like kids puzzle game. It was designed to be a simple puzzle game, and people do speeds, solvings of it and stuff like that, and it's become this whole sort of cult thing of its own now, off there. But
and it does show a different side of them as well. A kind of more light-hearted side, which was great to see. Mm-hmm. My second choice is Andrew Vazlik and The Confluence. He's approaching national treasure status, in my opinion.
That's fair.
It's interesting. Maybe this isn't interesting, but on the album, it's A Confluence, and the single is The Confluence. I don't know if there's anything to read into that at all. I'm sure he meant that, definitely. But the album is Hearing the Water Before Seeing the Falls, which is a great title. And again, it's so difficult to pick something from it because a bit like the Mango Lassie Cycles EP, it kind of makes sense more as a whole rather than... you can listen to the individual stuff, but I think it does make more sense. And also, this is instrumental music that for me, it demands to be listened to, you know, not stuck on in the background or where you do the dishes or whatever you might do. You sit down and you listen to these albums, you know, because there's so much going on.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I hadn't heard of this at all before you sent it over on your list. And I was, I was very impressed with it. It seems to me like it's because it's an instrumental track, it has to paint a lot of colors to sort of fill in the story. And I feel like when listening to this song, you can just kind of see it all. You can see sort of nature, and I got a lot of autumnal colors as well from it. And the build up in it is really kind of intricate as well. And then at the end, the big crescendo and the flourish of all the instruments sort of coming together over this one melody rather than the polyrhythms. It all just kind of just slots in for the very last bit. And I thought that was a great sort of coming together almost of an ecosystem or something to suddenly bloom or something like that.
There's something very natural in his music, I think. Yeah, absolutely. And the album's great as well. So if you don't know it, I would say go and check it out.
I'm going to check out the rest of it now. After hearing that one, it was really impressive. That really got in my head, that one.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It kind of stays with you once you've finished. So I'm so pleased you picked this next choice. What is it?
This is Exit Scene by Sapien, Scott Simpson. This is his artist name. So Scott is something of a metalhead, I think. His roots kind of lie in that. And I first heard his music in lockdown, I think in 2020, and you could still definitely tell there was some metal influences in there, definitely. But this is a huge, huge step away from that. And whenever I stick on a Sapien song now, I don't know what it's going to be, which is makes him a very exciting artist for me, I think. And this one, it's again, it's another earworm. It just gets right in your head. The riff is incredibly catchy. And I just like how he's not afraid to, again, change his sound, do something different very confidently, and care more about how much they love the song and how much care and attention has gone into the song itself, rather than worry about, what genre is it, or is it going to fit with my older stuff, or that kind of thing. I think it's really brave. It's definitely the poppiest thing he's ever done, but the lyrics are still kind of metally as well. It talks a lot about, it's very self-deprecating, and it's a lot about despair and being egotistical and that kind of thing, which I appreciate as a sort of throwback to where he came from.
Oh no, I'd written down this is perhaps the most unexpected release of the year, because he had that kind of metal background, and then I think he did a kind of more acoustic-y thing as well. Cold Light, I think it was called.
Yeah.
But his last few releases, and particularly with Exit Scene, it's just like big pop songs that he's putting out there, and they're absolutely brilliant. I think this is the best one yet, for all the reasons that you said.
Yeah, I'd say so. This is the song that when I first put it on, it's one of the ones that I just show all my musician friends, like, listen to this. This is one of those ones where you just share with everyone because they're all going to love it. So yeah.
And there's still gorgeous guitar at the heart of it. If you listen, and there's some beautiful guitar getting played there. And I mean, this is purely aesthetic, and it's absolutely it. But he still looks as though he would be shredding guitar, rather than playing this pop song. And I think that's brilliant. No,
but yeah, the juxtaposition of that definitely works. It kind of makes him stand out a bit. But he's still him, I guess. And, none of us are any one particular genre.
No.
For our whole, music career. Hopefully not. If you are, then it's a bit boring. You have loads of different songs inside you. You have all these different genres, and Scott's definitely one of those people who's not afraid to put them out.
Exactly, that's great. Because I do think things have changed, but I think perhaps in the past there was almost pressure to go, right, you're a heavy metal guitarist and that's it. And of course, the best artists, from Bowie to Prince to try all sorts of different things.
Yeah, I mean, I always struggle to put down on any festival form what genre are you, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I think that's really, I think we've spoken about this before, but I think that really is changing the way that jazz and hip hop and folk and all these people are kind of working together,
Over, yeah.
And there's lots more examples of that coming up.
Mm-hmm. What's your next
one? I'm talking about big pop songs. The next one for me is Medicine Cabinet and the Signs. I think this is their debut, but they formed in 2019, But of course, that kind of means hardly anything because of the last couple of years when you've not been able to be in a rehearsal room
Yeah.
or play live. But they sound as though they've been together for ages. You know, they're so tight. For that to be their debut single, I think it's incredible.
Mm. No, I think so too. I had somehow I'd missed this entirely. I only heard it when you sent it over, but yeah, it was a big hit. Everyone was like waiting for it because they played so many shows. They'd opened for, I think they were opening for Franz Ferdinand or something like that, and they've done a lot of King's Touch shows. They've just sold out, and I'm guessing it's because their live energy is just so incredible. They've managed to develop a huge kind of cult following, even without any music being out at all. So this was long awaited. This single, I think. And the song itself, yeah, as you said, they're super tight. It feels like they've been a band for way longer. This feels like quite a mature release for a first single, even if it is still like pop punk and that kind of thing. Does remind me a lot of a kind of Duran Duran slash Blondie mix or
Yeah.
something like that. And the song's subject matter as well is another one that was probably written during lockdown because it's kind of trying to find meaning in little things to justify your own choices and that kind of thing. I think that resonated for a lot of people, especially over the pandemic where you had nothing to do but think about your choices and think about what's happening in your life. So I think it resonated with a lot of people in that way.
And I think you're right. Pop punk's a good way of putting it. I love a bit of shouting in the middle of a song.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing. And it kind of comes in, gives you a good shake, and leaves, and you're kind of going, "Oh, what was that?" Again, a lovely, perfect pop song in that sense. And I was
Yeah.
interested to see how critically acclaimed they already are, considering how little they've put out.
Yeah, me too.
And often that can be quite a bad thing because the marketing's bigger than the expectation
Right.
becomes far too big. But actually, I think that it seems to tick all the boxes.
They still seem pretty grassroots, I think. So even if they do have a big media campaign behind them, I don't think they're letting that take any of the grime off of them. It's supposed to be a compliment, but yeah, they're not all shiny yet.
No, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Duran Duran, and kind of it would be the early Duran Duran, when they were still playing clubs in Birmingham and dressing themselves rather than the big. Yeah, absolutely right. So your next choice is one I was not familiar with. So what is it?
So this is As She Cries by Silver Coast, who are an Inverness-based band who've been going for
Right.
about, I think, 10 years this year. But this was the first song I'd heard of them. They're an alt-rock slash pop-punk band, so another poppy-punky thing.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the songs I heard this year, this is the one I said to everyone who I knew were super into things like Blink-182, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, My Chemical Romance, all those bands, those emo-y sort of gothy bands from like the 2000s and 90s. So basically every musician I know, because they all have a big phase of this stuff. And the song it just has a lot of nostalgia for me because it is that kind of, it harps back to that era where that stuff was really huge and everybody who was ages like 10 to 14, 15 was really into it. But it still feels like kind of youthful and hopeful, even though it was quite a long time ago now that music was super popular. The fact that it's coming back, I think, just makes me very happy. So it makes me feel joy when I listen to this song. It's very the screamo as well is especially like sort of it pulls at a weird part of people who are my age's heartstrings. I think because there's so many songs of that era have that in it, and it's also just the way they record. It's really hard to record wall to wall rock like this or wall to wall band stuff because it can just get really messy and just become kind of a blur. And the production and the recording of this is sublime. You can hear everything's super tidy, and everything has its chance to stand out as well. And yeah, it's a really impressive recording as well.
I was going to say that I think the production is fantastic. And it did something similar for me because I've got a bit of a heavy rock past back in the day. And this would be the kind of song I could imagine blasting out from my bedroom and annoying the neighbours. It's absolutely got that feel to it. And I'm glad you listened to it. You picked it because I don't really listen or play much of the heavier side of things. And I should, because when you hear something like this, you go, oh, yeah, it really kind of hits you.
It does definitely hits you, and it's just a song that as I say, it just brings me joy. I can see myself listening to it with my stupidly dyed hair on a Walkman or something, and that image. Just makes me very happy. So yeah, I love this
It's
song.
absolutely for an old Walkman. That's a great example. But do you think that it kind of, I mean, heavy rock's never gone away, but do you
No.
think that there's a certain style coming back again?
I really hope so, because I think they've sold out a couple of shows up north now, so they definitely have a fan base, and bands like them, I think, also have a fan base. And I don't think it's just teenagers anymore. I think it's people like me who used to really like that music and still do, looking for new music to listen to. So I think there definitely is an audience for that kind of music out there.
Yeah, well, they're another band I need to check out further,
Mm.
and because that was a really enjoyable listen.
Yeah,
Quite a change of pace now.
yeah, a little bit. Well, it's a very
The-
varied list, which is good. It should be varied. It should
yeah,
be.
no, it's I think all patting ourselves on the back aside, I think it's a really good list for that. It really is a good mix of things. And my next one is Alice Faye and Haircutter. And Alice released 4 singles this year. I think this is probably it is the best one. That's why I picked it. But she's working with, I think she's working with Jumping the Shark Management, who look after Tom McGuire and the Brass Holes, Cara Rose, Declan Welsh, Zoe Bestel. And I think it's a great fit
Yeah.
because I think her sound is, there's something traditional in, not in the trad sense, but, something old that going on with it. It's that kind of torch singer or very, almost a jazz singer feel about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I've written down old Hollywood for her voice. It sounds very sort of, yeah, not traditional as you say, but just kind of classic, I guess is the term.
Yeah.
It feels very much like that. The voice is, yeah, stunning. Her voice is incredible. I hadn't heard of this either before it was on the list, and I'm very glad it was on the list. I think the song is about the amount of weight and value we put into a new haircut, possibly, and how it's going to fix all our problems, when in reality, it's not really going to do that. Nobody really notices. We'll
Fiona, I'm long beyond that.
I get my haircut, nobody notices. Nobody knows who you
No,
are.
that's true. I trim my moustache for that.
There
That's
you go, you got that. I can't have that, so that's something. Or it could just be about how much she loves her partner's hair. I don't know. I like my version, but I don't know.
I do think there's something a little dark going on there as well. I'm not saying that she collects the hair and stores it away or anything like that. But
there is something kind of weird about liking hair because it's kind of related to, it's like teeth falling out, hair falling out is kind of related to death in a lot of ways and kind of spooky stuff. So maybe that was the angle. It's supposed to be kind of creepy as well, to be super into someone's hair.
maybe, Alice, if you're listening, maybe we're totally misrepresenting you there. But I think what I like about Alice, what I've heard so far, is that the songs fit her voice really well. It worked beautifully together, and the music too.
Mm-hmm. Really
I'm hoping to hear more from her soon, hopefully. Because if there's 4 songs, you're thinking there's maybe an EP or an album on the way, which would be excellent. Now, I saw this next choice of yours last night at the Scottish Alternative Music Awards, and I was absolutely blown away. So you tell us who it is.
So this is Becky Sakasa and her song Lullaby off her new album 12 Wooden Boxes, which has been on repeat in this house fairly often since it came out. Again, another one where it was really hard to pick one song. Very, very tricky. But I picked this one because it's probably, she writes a lot of very personal songs and very vulnerable songs, but this one feels one of the most vulnerable to me. It's the idea of singing a lullaby to oneself because either nobody else is there or you don't need anybody else to do that. That's kind of, I think, quite a nice sentiment. It's very self-affirming. And yeah, just singing yourself to sleep. It's a very interesting image in my head. It's a very vulnerable image as well. She reminds me of a kind of Imogen Heap with Leanne LaHavis thrown in there as well. So if you're a fan of either of those artists, then this whole album will be right up your street, I think. But Lullaby itself, yeah, it's quite short as well, but it just kind of gives you everything you need in just one wee song. There's no other instruments really or anything, just a vocoder and some lovely harmonies and just a kind of the same melody with different lyrics going round and round till it builds up and then just drops away again and again kind of leaves you going, what was that? As she said before, it's very like that. And yeah, I'm glad you got to see her last night. I was almost going to go to the Samas, but I was tired from being all around Glasgow for the last couple of days Christmas shopping. So I
Ah,
thought, it's on every year. I'll get it
yeah,
next
I'll be
year.
here next year. Yeah, it was a great night, but
I'm
I
glad.
have to say Becky was my highlight. And
Great.
she's someone I didn't really know until fairly recently.
Hmm.
I was involved as one of the nominators for the
Oh
acoustic
yeah.
award, and Becky
Well
was
done,
one of,
Lindsay Clark, as well.
well done,
Well done.
Lindsay Clark, who we spoke about last year,
We
absolutely.
did, yeah.
And in fact, I'll name check them all. The other two were Lewis McLaughlin and
Yeah.
Fairweather Friends. And it's a really strong category.
Strong group, yeah.
Yeah,
Really strong group.
but it was fantastic to see Becky play live because
Yeah.
you get that extra dimension, and it was her, a couple of backing singers, some guitar, but not, and really just supporting with the guitar and some light drums. Is that the
Yeah.
terminology?
From Kyle Sharp, that'll be from her
Yeah,
drummer.
and it was just a fantastic 5 song set, and yeah, wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, definitely want to see her live next year if I can. She's not off in Germany. I'd like to come see her live in Scotland.
So my next choice is Race Car and Better Than You Know. And this was perhaps my most joyous record of the year, just because these seem to be people who just are loving playing music together. They're just, everything about it. And, at one point you get this guitar solo that comes in out of almost nowhere.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, wow, what was that? And the whole album's like that. The album is called Orange Car. In fact, now here's something cool. This is my version of
Oh,
it.
I
They're
love
doing
that.
a
Yes, the
wee
USB
gold car
thing.
USB stick.
I love that idea. It's a great, great way to get to a unique way of selling your album. That's fantastic. I love that.
Um, and if you like the track that you've got in the Spotify playlist and that you've heard, then you'll love the album because the whole thing's just them. Um, and I don't entirely know who Race Car are. It's lots of, they're not selling themselves as a band. They're just,
Yeah.
it's great musicians making great
So,
music together.
yeah, there seems to be a core three
Mhm.
of Izzy, Robin, and Callum Mason. Callum Mason, who released an amazing album of kind of trad original songs this year or last year. I can't
I
remember.
think
I
it
know
was
I was
last year. I
it was
think it was last year.
Yeah. So they're kind of the core three. I think they get lots of other very, very good musicians in. And I was delighted to see this as being one of your picks because Flood was nearly one of mine. Their first single from the album.
Yeah.
And I remember how floored I was by that single and how it's again just a debut single right out of the gate. Incredibly talented musicians, wonderful songwriting, and yeah, it's just perfection. And the whole album is pretty much perfection to me. This song in particular reminds me weirdly of like a Paul Simon one, kind of a later Paul Simon. And yeah, the drop, as you said, for the guitar solo, it's just so unexpected, but so like joyous as well. It's a very joyous song. It feels like a kind of celebration of yourself or something. It feels very much like this is me. I'm independent, and I'm flourishing now that I've moved on from you, whoever you were.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting comparison with the later Paul Simon because the level of playing is kind of up there, isn't it?
Yeah. So
It's just astonishingly good. And as I say, I just get the feeling that they would be doing this whether anyone was listening to it or not. Do they just really enjoy playing together?
I think so too.
And did they do live?
They do. They had their live gig. They had a live gig at the Voodoo Rooms, and Gaffer Guys were kind of in talks to support them. But we had a gig at Voodoo Rooms not long around that time, so they asked. I can't remember. They asked somebody else. So they do live shows.
Right.
I don't know when their next one is coming up. I have a feeling it's quite soon from what I've seen.
Okay.
But, yeah, hopefully soon they'll be doing some more live shows.
Because I would love to see this music played live. I'd just be absolutely fascinated to see how they do it. So your next choice, Fiona.
Yeah, my next choice. I'm playing favourites a little bit with one of my selections, just because I know the band fairly well. But they're some of the nicest people that I know.
And it's some great music.
And yeah, the music's fantastic as well. So I think it's absolutely fair that they're included on here. This is Part Machine by Yoko Ono, which is the title track from their recent album. It's just incredible. I saw this live and it was incredible as well. They did their whole EP launch or album launch a couple of months back, and I went along to see that. And this song in particular is just hits in a really just kind of primal way almost. So it builds super slowly as well. I love a really, really big slow build into this massive crescendo, and the violin drop it's just one of the coolest things I've heard, really, that them do or anybody do. It's just that screaming tone. As a violinist, it's just like, see, it can be a cool instrument. We can do cool stuff with it. It's awesome. Part Machine feels kind of it's for me it's kind of a lonely robot who's just kind of looking for humanity or something. And then at the end, maybe they've taken over the planet or something. I don't know, but it's a really interesting story, and they're very good at doing that with their music.
I think it's kind of almost the kind of folk music I would imagine Post Cold Prom Queen might make. You know, there's that kind of science fiction aspect to it. And you're talking about seeing them live. I noticed that they're playing the Hug and Pint in Glasgow on the 1st of February. So I think I will head along to
Yeah,
that because I would love to see this live.
it's incredible. It's they've added a banjo player and a flautist to the lineup. It used to just be Lissa, and the other three boys as well. But now I think they've added these other two players. It does add a whole other element to it, and they just sort of bounce around. Everyone's doing different solos and different parts in different places, and the energy they bring to the live stage is just incredible.
Because on this track, it's almost they're taking folk music to really new and exciting places. And I know you do that yourself, but few do it as bravely as this, you know, to have it's kind of there's bits of prog and there's electronica going on there.
Big
Yeah.
mixed bag. I said I reviewed this album for Callum before it came out, and I think the main thing I took away from it was actually the whole thing kind of has vibes of disco going through it, which was a new thing for them to go disco folk, which was interesting for the first couple of tracks anyway. But I picked Part Machine because it feels kind of slightly more like old Yoko Ono, but also breaking into these completely new genres that you said, like prog and rock and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's an insanely technical and impressive piece of music, and I really and it's quirky as well. Which
Yes, it is.
So
It's
yeah,
great. So next, I'm going to talk about Fergus McCready and Law Hill, and I thought I had to mention Fergus
yeah,
just to say what a year he's had.
yeah, absolutely.
So it won. He won the Scottish Album of the Year award. He was shortlisted, of course, for the Mercury, but the main reason is just because this is just an astonishing piece of music. His piano playing on this is Herculean, I'm going to say.
It's not fair. It's mental how good he is at piano.
I mean, we want you to go and listen to the whole of the Spotify list, of course, but take note of the piano playing on this piece of music because it's exceptional.
It really is. It sounds like the band have been playing together forever. It sounds just so impossibly tight and coordinated. It's like they're sharing one brain or something. It's it's incredible. And this song itself, if you've seen, there's a live version somewhere on YouTube of them playing it together, and it's just so stupidly intricate, and it's just brain meltingly good. I can't fully get my head around how good they all are at playing this stuff, and just the sort of ebb and flow of this song as well. It just kind of effortless. It goes from sort of a calm river to like a big rush later on. It's painting that image in my mind, and they just go from one to the other so seamlessly. And yeah, it's Scottish jazz is just such a super exciting place to
Yeah.
be, I think, right now, and to be a fan of, especially because of songs like this and albums like this.
Yeah, I like the idea of Fergus McCready having a hive mind with
Yeah,
his, going to link into each other. It does feel like that. And a bit like Andrew Vaslik and also Mango Lassie, there is a real kind of link with nature in the playing, I think, as well.
it does seem like that. It does seem sort of going through different either weather changes or something like that, or something there's lots of big gusts of wind, and then suddenly it's very calm. And yeah, you can tell he loves the beauty of Scotland and clearly just wandering around and looking at stuff and just experiencing nature.
And like Andrew Vaslik, well, you couldn't just have this on in the background. It would, you have to really sit and just,
You.
it would really distract you from anything else. So next up, another choice that I could have had as well, but tell us what it is.
This is Jelly Tots by Mima Merrow, her new album Almost Home. I was blown away by it. It was breathtaking. It was really understated and delicate, yet very powerful at the same sort of time, and very vulnerable as well. This one, it starts kind of like with the hair cutter one. It reminds me of sort of classic old Hollywood or old kind of romantic ballad sort of thing. It reminds me of, I could hear it in something like Music Man with the melody that it's weaving. I could hear it in something like that. And then the percussion in the, I guess you kind of call it the chorus of the middle part of the song, just suddenly gives it a completely different vibe and just drives it forward. And yeah, it's sort of discussing the sweetness of and almost innocence of love with the little glockenspiel at the start as well, and how somebody's flaws are kind of part of that. And yeah, the whole album is fantastic, and Maima is doing some amazing work, kind of combining again folk and electronic and
Yeah.
indie and all these different genres together. And yeah, it's an incredible listen, this album, and spoken word as well. Sorry, there's some spoken word pieces in there too.
I was going to say, nearly every track on it surprises you. It goes somewhere where you don't expect it to, whether it's a kind of almost false ending or your spoken word, as you say, coming into it as well. The reason I probably didn't pick a track from it is because I would have struggled to pick one, because it is such a complete collection of songs, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's another one where you need to hear the whole thing to get the whole picture. But Jelly Tots, as a way to sort of, I guess,
Yeah, it's a good
advertise
in.
the album, yeah, to get in. This is a good way. This is a good way to get in. So if you like that, listen to the rest of it, and you'll get the whole picture. It's like part of a jigsaw puzzle, and you need to get the rest of it to fill the whole picture in.
And I was thinking about Mima's voice, and there's something almost heartbreaking about it. You know, you listen, it's got a melancholy through it. I just, you know, I love it. I love that voice. I love the whole album, everything about it.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible. It's kind of again a vulnerable sort of voice, but you can she's does not afraid to use her accent as well in it, which I think
Mm-hmm.
also kind of makes it more personalized, which again makes it just way more relatable and emotional a little bit as well.
No, it's a great choice, and it's a great album. So check out the song and then go and
Yeah,
further and check out the full album. Now, we don't have to pick a track of the year, but if we did, I think this might be mine, or at least it is today. It's Cloth and Low Sun. And Cloth are another band who seemed to arrive when they did Almost Fully Formed. You know, the songs were there and the style was there, and they, if Race Car had lots going on in it,
yeah.
Cloth almost let it breathe. They had, you know, it's almost the opposite. And I'm not saying one is better than the other at all. They're both brilliant, but it's quite a brave thing to do, I think, to just kind of have it so pared back.
Almost cavernous in a way. I think that's what I've written down is yeah, cavernous.
It's weird. I get quite emotional listening to it, and I'm not too sure why, and I'm not too sure I want to know why. But there's something in it that you kind of cavernous is interesting. It's almost like you're looking, yeah, maybe you've got too much time to think. Maybe some music, you know, it just you're carried away. But with this song, you know, you really have to kind of get involved with it, I think.
You do, yeah. They ask you to come on board with it, but it also just lets the voice and the lyrics breathe a bit more. It sounds like it's being the whole song kind of lives in I don't know some kind of I don't know why it's kind of like an underground car park that's quite empty. That's what it conjured in my head. And someone's just quietly singing to himself in a car or something. But it's just such a spacious song. It's so minimalist as well. I get where you got emotional, isn't it? Because yeah, the song itself, the subject matter at least, it's very related to how we were kind of feeling again, probably during the pandemic, where we were just feeling just super lonely, and
Yeah.
it's just needing somebody to make us feel normal again, basically, and make us feel like we're loved and we're appreciated. So I think yeah, in terms of subject matter, it's definitely quite an emotional one. But I don't know that maybe the sense of space really works with that then, because if this person is on their own and there's nothing around them but this space, it kind of reflects back that same idea of just utter loneliness.
That's it. I'm staring into the abyss, and it's staring
Yeah,
back
there
at
we are.
me.
Yeah, that's what I think. But it was a great book.
Yeah, I think they're a fantastic band, Cloth. They just, you know, everything they've ever have released and continue to release, I just love. So your next choice, Fiona.
Yeah, my next choice is I Am Free by Michael Cassidy, another artist who I hadn't heard anything about apart from this song. And as soon as it came in with just this very kind of brogue Scottish voice, just singing in a kind of gospel fashion about nature and about, you know, sort of the journey of life, I was just immediately in. And the harmonies floating around it as well and joining in feels kind of chanty. And then the strings that come in midway through It's just the perfect recipe for a song that I'm going to like, is lots of good harmonies and lots of good strings. And when that's all the song is and it's all the song needs, it's, yeah, a very kind of beautiful sort of magic kind of happens. And I think it's just, yeah, okay, song of the year, then this one will probably be mine. There you go.
Fantastic.
It's just such yeah, it's just such a beautiful piece. Sorry.
No, again, it's from a great album, Wandering as Water, but what a great way to open the album. You know, absolutely quite a brave thing to do, I think, as you say, having it so stripped back. It's almost a traditional song, isn't it? And
it does feel like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very kind of folky, even though it's an original. It definitely takes cue from that, the kind of gospel and folky, and I can see everyone in like a folk club at some tiny Scottish village. Sort of some guy gets up and starts singing a trad song, and it's something that sounds a lot like this. So it's a lot of cues from that and those roots, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil, the other half of Geffergeist, when I showed him it, he thought it should be in a Coen Brothers film when someone's getting murdered outside a church. So take from that what you will.
A Scottish Presbyterian church.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. But yeah, it's a song, weirdly.
Because Michael has been making music for a while. I think I first heard his stuff, well, maybe about 10 years ago or something, but
Wow, yeah.
not consistently, you know, he admit that himself, but this, he's put everything into this album, I think. And I think as a introduction to what he does, I Am Free works absolutely perfectly. I mean, the harmonies that are going on there,
Oh, yeah.
I can see the Coen Brothers thing, actually, now that you've mentioned it. Absolutely. You can see them using that as something. Because there's something very, as someone who doesn't make music, for me, there's something very emotional about hearing voices together like that. Just that.
Yeah. It's quite community-based, or conjures up this sense of togetherness or something that, yeah. Yeah, only harmonies can really do. And the harmonies themselves, they sound in a weird mix of like, this is just completely spontaneous and really orchestrated and thought out at the same time. And yeah, definitely a sense of togetherness you get from it. I can see everyone singing it, again, in a Scottish Presbyterian church or something like that, or in a folk club. And just, yeah, this song, it is very vulnerable and stripped back, but it also does create that sense of community, I think.
Yeah, I think I hadn't thought about that, but community, and it brings you into the album as a whole by doing that, I think.
This is a welcome space for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my next choice is Frankie Morrow and White Rocks, who are one of the kind of breakthrough acts, I think, of the year. Frankie Morrow is the name of the singer and the name of the band, I believe. And this is really old school to me. I can imagine them hanging out with Joni Mitchell and, you know, Neil Young and Haight Ashbury, you know, because there's saxophone and the guitars and the backing singers, and, you know, it's got that real old rock and roll feel to it.
Yeah, it reminds me, I've written down Fairport Convention for some reason, that
Yeah.
kind of vibe for me. It's, yeah, it could be from, it's pretty timeless, but if you watch, try and pinpoint it, it'd probably be somewhere in that era, as you said. I love the use of brass in it as well. It's kind of unexpected for a song that could fit very neatly into sort of indie pop genre, that using these orchestral elements as well. It just kind of elevates it a bit further. I love how they were just childhood pals who met on a train and decided to just start a band. It's just such a weird story. It reminds me of a Scottish summer, weirdly. Again, I'm going back to nature here, but I feel like it could be playing. But your indie mate who's really into underground music would show you this again, probably on a Walkman. But yeah, during summertime. But yeah.
They're another band. Sorry, they're another band who I can't wait to see live. They played Glasgow recently, and I couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
But yeah, I would love to see these songs played live. I picked White Rocks because I think it was the first thing I heard from them, and it immediately made me sit up and listen and want to know more.
Yeah, that's perfect. Her voice also is just, it's so kind of soulful and yet folky, which kind of intrigued me a lot. And it reminds me of someone like Sean Colvin or Amy Mann or somebody like that, who's just fairly understated, but can just, you know, effortlessly just flex about and just do incredible tricks, but not having to belt it at all. Just like sliding and doing incredible runs, but not feeling the need to, you know, overshoot their shot, as it were. It's a very lovely, understated yet soulful voice.
Amy Mann's a great comparison, actually. I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. It can be almost spoken or whispered, and then you can get a switch with it. And you were saying how it's almost folky. There's that side to it, but like Mima, Frankie uses her accent as well. You know, it's not a huge thing, but it's there, and I think that does kind of root it in Scotland where it might not have had otherwise if you had someone, you know, with a try putting on an American accent or something like that, transatlantic accent.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Frankie Morrow live, and I'm really looking forward to how they continue to grow. Because, as I say, they're really getting a lot of attention already.
They are, yeah. Well deserved.
Your next choice is
Yes. This is Halo by Blue Violet, who are a husband and wife duo, Sam and Sarah Godley. Their album Late Night Calls is another one of my favourites this year.
Yeah.
It's another one I've put on in the car countless times. Just I love the sort of juxtaposition again of the darkness and the kind of Americana vibe of it with Sarah's kind of a bit more floaty and more pure kind of vocals that go on in it, and then how she can change that to just be like in Halo, super super dark and angry almost. There's some kind of brooding, you know, darkness in there that I really appreciate in this one. And I really struggled to pick again from this album because I love a lot of the songs loads, but this was the one that made me cry, so it's here.
I'm glad you picked this one because it's an amazing recording. I'm a bit like Frankie Morrow we're talking about, another band that seems to have an old soul about them, you know, in what they do. And I've written down American Torch Song, which is what I kind of think it is. It reminded me a bit of the Handsome Family or a kind of more gothic Gillian Welsh and Dave Rawling, you know, that kind of dynamic going on. And I love how it builds. You were saying earlier how you like a song that builds. Wow, this song builds. The end is epic.
It's so epic. It's mad.
And it's also quite a raw and unsettling song. You were talking, you know, previously about that being the case, and there's no doubt that's going on here.
It's oddly unsettling. I can sort of picture I don't know, a singer sort of in a big like Royal Concert Hall sort of thing with just them and just singing the song itself, and then sort of just more and more the lights sort of come up, instruments come up and that kind of thing and join in. And by the end again, they sort of fall or slide into the middle eight. It feels just, it's just it kind of crushes me a bit or something. It just feels like this big weight just comes down on the whole thing. Yeah, it just makes you feel just kind of weirdly angry, but in a good way. Or that the person singing the song is like angry and passionate about this thing. And yeah, I love a song again, as you said, that builds, and just the ending of it is just. It's so far away from where we started. Again, it feels like this big journey has been had.
It's almost a story, which I guess great talk songs are, and it feels to me that what you're talking about, that drop, almost feels like exhaustion.
Yeah,
and then it builds back up again to this real kind of exaltation.
That's the right word for it, is exhaustion. It does feel like someone's just given everything, and that's it.
I can do no more.
Yeah, can't do anything else. No, I love. Yeah, this is again one of my top. Well, it is one of the top 10 songs of the year because it's on the list. But it's one I keep coming back to because it's just such an emotional journey. It's just an incredible piece of music as well.
But as we said before we started, it's so difficult to pick 10 that if they're still resonating, if they've made this list, they are very, very good, basically. So my next choice was my kind of favourite return of the year. It's Butcher Boy, and I picked Sunday Bells. The album is Hope You Had a Kind Face, which came out this year, an anthology of, now for those who don't know, Butcher Boy came around in the late 90s, and then from then to now they've kind of dropped in and out over the years, making music, releasing music, differing lineups through the way. They were the kind of band in the late 90s where if someone said, oh, I really like Belle and Sebastian, you would then introduce them to Butcher Boy and say, well, if you like them, you'll like them. You know, they had that similar kind of indie, but kind of chamber pop and thing going on, and intelligent lyrics and all the things that you might think of with Belle and Sebastian, Butcher Boy share. It was great. I'd kind of forgotten about them, I have to admit. And then this wonderful anthology came out, and just to rediscover a band that you had kind of really loved before, it was like, oh yeah, this is why I love them. So it's a very personal choice in that sense to kind of go back and listen to Butcher Boy again. It was great. What did you think of them?
I have to say I hadn't heard them before, probably because I think they were formed in 1998 or something like that, and I was 5. So that might be why I wasn't as familiar. But no, I really enjoyed listening to this one. And the lyrics, as you said, they're very intelligent. They read kind of like, I think John Blaine Hunt is a poet, so when you read it, it could just be a piece of poetry on its own. And then putting it with the music, combining again, as we've had with the last song, the sort of wonder of a live band or just a recording band with orchestration to just elevate it further. And the little touches of cello here and there are, really, really stunning to me. And the lyrics, as you said, are very, very intelligent. Like, can you tell me why the wires touch and the mirror rust was a particularly favourite line of mine. And I'll have to go back and listen to the whole anthology now because, as you said, very Belle and Sebastian, which was one of my dad's favourite bands for a long time. So definitely one I need to show him as well. So I might be getting this for Christmas.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, they weren't hugely well known even back in the 90s, but they were always, if you managed to catch them live or whatever, it was always a great, lots of people on stage, again, just enjoying kind of making music together. And one of the people that was in the band, Alison Eales, who's a fantastic musician, who is releasing new music in the new year, and I can't wait to hear that. So we might talk about her when we do this next year. Who knows?
That'd be good.
So your final choice, I think.
Yeah.
Go to that stage.
So my final choice is Try to Kick It But I Missed by the Microband, who are based in Leith, I think, or at least their label's based in Leith. Another one that kind of harpens back to the sort of gospel, chanty community thing I was talking about with Michael Cassidy, was just opening with just sort of kids playing, running around, and then just the simple clicking and the harmonies all singing together, sort of chanting. It reminds me a bit of Down to the River to Pray or something, one of those old songs like Alison Krauss versions or something that just builds and builds. But then it just kicks in with the full band, the riffs. It just feels like a big, again, a kind of celebration song or something like that. It feels kind of like a big festival or a big party's happening somewhere, and this song is the main soundtrack to it, basically. It's just, it was written over lockdown again, when it kind of, I think the idea was they're looking forward to what we were talking about earlier about live music coming back and everyone being together and experience it all at the same time and seeing these incredible bands come back live. I think the song successfully does do that. It kind of reminds us how much we'd love to see, well, this song live, first of all, and just all the bands we've loved listening to over the pandemic and over our lives, really.
It is interesting. We've already put out our best books of the year, and one of the themes that came out was dystopian fiction. All the world's going to hell in a handcart. And I wonder if some of the music that's coming out is so reflective of what we've been through.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, if you think that after the couple of years we've had, we want to get away from dystopian, ideas and towards utopian ideas. But oh well.
Maybe that's coming next. Maybe that's in the next few years.
Yeah, maybe.
This is another one I missed. So thank you for introducing me to the Microband. What a classy record. Really class from start to finish. And recorded at Abbey Road Studios, I think.
Their last EP certainly was. I'm not positive about this one, but I think it
Okay.
would have been. I know that the guitarist Daniel did a selection of songs, singles recorded over lockdown, just on his iPhone. He just used his iPhone and a wee USB microphone, I think, and the singles he produced from that were incredible. So in my head, it could be Abbey Road, it could be their room. I don't know. They could clearly have mastered both methods of recording, so I'm not sure. But yeah.
But well, if you've done that on an iPhone,
all right, fair enough.
Then wow, there's a lot of studios going to be quaking in their boots. And that's the harmonies. The harmonies are absolutely to die for.
They really are. It really just floats through the whole song and just again ties it together with a big bow on it so beautifully with the harmonies on top of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Once we finish recording this, I'm going to go and investigate further.
Oh, good.
And for the last choice on our list, it's from me, and it's Tamzine, Dance With You Again. And this always brings me to tears every time I play it. It's like listening to, or it's making me feel sad for a relationship that I have no part of.
Yeah.
I'm not involved at all in this, but I really feel sad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tamzine, just like I said about Alice Faye, she's got this incredible voice, but it really matches the song. And I think the best singer-songwriters, that's what happens, isn't it? The songs and the singing come together to make a complete whole.
No, I have to admit again, hadn't heard of this one or Tamsin, even though looking her up, she seems, yeah, she's garnered quite a lot of acclaim, which is great. She's from Cromarty, which was surprising as well. There's not many folk. Well, I know a few folk from Cromarty, and they say there's not much going on there, but it's a beautiful part of the world, really, really stunning. And I get what you mean about feeling like you're part of this relationship, even though you're nowhere near it. Because it's again the way it's written, kind of like a diary, and kind of very vulnerably. Like it's just the thoughts are just kind of spilling out a little bit. And you do feel like you're kind of included as a listener.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. And the minimalism of it as well, it just seems like, again, the quiet thoughts that someone would have in a diary, rather than, you know, any kind of big declaration of love or any big loud bombastic thing. It just it feels like a window into someone's mind and into someone's grief over the loss of the relationship. Very subtle and understated, and yeah, that can definitely bring out a lot of emotions in a listener.
Well, oh God, I'm glad I'm not listening to this just after a breakup. I would be in bits.
No.
But the album it's from is called Details, and it's worth checking out. I mean, I've been aware of Tamsin for a few years now, and yeah, I can see why people are being critically acclaimed, or she is critically acclaimed, because yeah, her songs are amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's another one. After we record this, I'll go check out her album as well, because I would like to hear more about her voice. Was just, yeah, it does just cut right through you.
So that is our 20. We have made it to the end. Another great selection of tracks, I must say.
I reckon so. Yeah, I think we did pretty well. Not to congratulate ourselves, but yeah.
Yeah, I hope people agree. As I said at the beginning, head over to the Spotify list. The links will be on the website, and as will the links to all the artists featured as well. So remember, it is Christmas time. You can buy music and share it around. It would be a really good thing to do. And it's just interesting looking over the selection that, as we mentioned between us a few times, a lot of them are tracks from albums and EPs. And I wonder if that suggests that during lockdown and all the time that people really have been working on a lot of songs that they can then put out.
Yeah, I'm feeling bad about my productivity, certainly. I've put out amazing albums, say, or a couple of singles. But yeah, it's incredible how much people have been working over this time to release these big bodies of work, and I'm really thankful for it, because yeah, we've had some incredible pieces of art come from this year, and yeah, it's interesting to see how many come out next year when everyone's, you know, back to work.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, it really is just scratching the surface. There's so much great music being made every week, being released every week in Scotland. It blows me away all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how you managed to fit it all in, to be honest. I listened to all of it. I really don't know. And reading the books as well. And the films. I don't know how you got the time.
I have nothing else in my life. You know, that's how it works. Thank you so much again for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always.
It has been a pleasure. I hope I'm back next year with even more good music.
You will be. We'll have to pick 10 again. No.
Oh no. I forgot about that bit at least.
And we'll be back soon with someone completely different. Cheers.